Hello friends, welcome to Dungeons & Dragonfly, where I adapt various characters for use in D&D. I'm Dragonfly9078, and today I'm building Big D from Hunter the Parenting. So what do we want from this build? Well, D hunts the supernatural, so we need the skills and experience to do so, rooting out vampires and other creatures, killing them, and learning their secrets to advance the greater fight against them. He's also the most senior of his hunter family, so we need to support our children in their fights, though we don't always share our vast accumulated knowledge. Looking over at ability scores, I'll be doing a point buy. If you want to roll for stats, that's fine, just make sure your strength, dexterity, wisdom, and charisma are high enough to multiclass. Starting off with 12s in strength and dexterity, and a 13 in constitution. D is in great physical shape, but as far as I can tell he's not superhuman, like the vampires and such that he fights. Intelligence is only 9, we don't need it to multiclass, and D is so absorbed in his hunting that he can come off as ignorant of everyday things like, say, the price of blenders. Wisdom will be another 12. The rampant insanity doesn't really help his case, but we need it for spotting enemies, and at least some of his antics are an act. Then we'll finish up with a 15 in charisma. D has a very large personality, and projects absolute confidence at all times. It would be easy to just make D a human, but there's hints here and there that there's more to him, and that he's been around for thousands of years. So since it isn't exactly clear what he is, we'll go with custom lineage. That'll bump our strength to 14 and give us proficiency with history, thanks to our long life. Then the skill expert feat rounds off our charisma to 16, bumps the history proficiency up to an expertise, and gives us medicine proficiency as well. D has spent extensive time fighting the forces of darkness, which does leave its mark. So as a haunted one, we also get proficiency with arcana and survival. D is larger than life, full of information, and has a multitude of ex-wives, ex-husbands, and ex-children, so it feels right to start off as a bard. Bards get any 3 skills. We'll go with Insight, Persuasion, and Deception, as well as Bardic Inspiration, a pool of d6s that we can give out to our beloved sons with our bonus action. They can add the die to an attack, ability check, or save that they make in the next 10 minutes, and we get all of our dice back when we take a long rest. Big D isn't much of a spellcaster, but you do pick up a few things when hunting the undead, like Vicious Mockery, where we tear apart a vampire with words, dealing psychic damage and giving their next attack disadvantage if they fail an intelligence save. And since vampires prefer to lurk in dark places, we'll take a torch with us with a light cantrip. We can use Long Strider to increase our speed by 10 feet for some massive, powerful legs, then comprehend languages, detect magic, and identify, use our vast history and experience with our prey to suss out their evil schemes and determine their true natures. Second level bards are jacks of all trades, as there is nothing that Big D cannot comprehend or excel at, so we can add half our proficiency bonus to ability checks that we aren't proficient with, and Song of Rest adds a d6 to our family's healing during short rests. After all, if we go to a hospital, there's no telling whether the people there are vampires or ghouls, and they might even call the cops on us. We'll take Heroism for our spell here, encouraging one of our family members to overcome their fear and face their prey head-on with hatred in their heart. It's probably best used on Boy. He has to learn someday. Then we get 2 expertises at 3rd level. Persuasion and Deception can help us talk our way out of being arrested if someone does call the cops, and thanks to our enormous bulging brain muscles, we become a part of the College of Lore. Lore bards get 3 more skills, like Intimidation, Perception, and Religion, and we can turn our Inspirational Wisdom into a demoralizing weapon with Cutting Words, spending a Bardic Inspiration die as a reaction to subtract it from an enemy's attack roll, ability check, or damage roll. We'll also take Sudden Awakening, which wakes up all sleeping creatures within 10 feet and lets them stand from prone without using any movement, in case we're ambushed in our place of residence. With our first ASI, we'll bump Dexterity and Wisdom to 13 apiece to get those multiclassing minimums. Then Thought Shield prevents our mind from being read, detected, or contacted telepathically, and gives us advantage on saves against effects that would tell if we're lying. There's also True Strike, which gives us advantage on a weapon attack on our next turn. It's bad, but sometimes we must be patient and wait for the bloodsuckers to come to us. At 5th level, our Bardic Inspiration dice upgrade to D8s, and they refill on any rest. We can also make a motivational speech, inspiring our sons and giving them temporary HP and advantage on wisdom saves. 6th level bards get Counter Charm to disrupt Tremere domination by breaking eye contact and breaking their concentration, aka putting on sunglasses and yelling really loudly. Bit rudimentary, but it works well enough to give allies within 30 feet advantage on saves against charming and frightening. We'll take Glyph of Warding to protect our beloved son-in-law's house with a minefield, then as a lore bard we get some additional magical secrets, spells from any list that count as bard spells for us. First up is Protection from Evil and Good. It's a little ambiguous if D is an imbued or not, and personally I'm inclined to think he isn't, but if he is, this will prevent us from being charmed, frightened, or possessed by creatures like Fae and Undead, since the imbued can't be embraced or otherwise turned into a monster. And if it turns out he isn't imbued, well, I guess he's just built different. More important is Find Steed, to get Horse, our beloved, most favoritist, and least incompetent of our sons. Switching gears for a bit, we'll hop over to Barbarian for a couple of levels. Unarmored Defense lets us run around in short shorts, as it makes our AC 10 plus our Dexterity and Constitution modifiers. We can also enter a Rage, possibly natural, possibly narcotic-induced. We get advantage on strength checks and saves, resistance to piercing, slashing, and bludgeoning damage, and we deal extra damage with our strength-based melee weapon attacks. Second level Barbarians can make reckless attacks. When we attack, we can choose to get advantage on our strength-based melee attacks during our turn, at the cost of giving all attacks against us advantage as well. We also develop a danger sense, so we get advantage on dexterity saves against visible effects like spells and traps. We'll finish the build out as a ranger, netting us one skill from the ranger list, like athletics. As a canny, deft explorer, we get expertise in insight. D is surprisingly good at reading people. There's an entire episode where he's just insight checking a police officer and his own family to figure out how to spin his story so they don't get arrested or blood hunted. For our favorite enemy, Undead is the obvious choice, but we'll save that for our greater favorite enemy and pick humanoids instead. That'll cover ghouls, mages, and werewolves, so we get advantage on survival checks to track them and intelligence checks to remember information about them, as well as +2 to our weapon damage against them. The unarmed fighting style will let us lay down a beating on the blue man by making our unarmed strikes deal 1d6 damage, or 1d8 if we have both hands free, as well as dealing a free d4 every turn to a creature we have grappled. As mentioned earlier, D isn't much of a spellcaster, so the spellless ranger variant gives us superiority dice instead, a pool of 4 d8s that refill on any rest and fuel our maneuvers. Tactical assessment adds one of those dice to an insight, investigation, or history check, and we can rally one of our sons as a bonus action, giving them temporary HP equal to 1 die plus our charisma modifier. At 3rd level, we can spend a minute concentrating to sense if there are any of our favorite enemies lurking within 5 miles, though given D's wildly unreliable attention span, this might not get much use. We can also make poultices to patch up our family's wounds, since, we can't trust the hospital. We can spend an hour gathering up bandages in Everclear and make a number of poultices equal to our wisdom modifier. Then if we spend a minute applying one to a humanoid, they heal 1d6 for every 2 ranger levels we have, which will end up being 6d6 HP. As a monster slayer, we can use our wealth of experience to tell what will or will not hurt the things that we fight. A number of times per day equal to our wisdom modifier, we can use our action to look at a creature within 60 feet and discern its weaknesses, resistances, and immunities, if it has any. Then we can use our bonus action to designate a creature as our prey, letting us deal an extra d6 of damage to it the first time we hit it with a weapon attack each turn. There's no limit on the number of times we can focus on a creature like this, but picking a new target does end the effect on the old one. We'll take the Resilient feat at 4th level to bump our Constitution to 14 and get proficiency with Constitution saves. Then at 5th level we can attack twice with the attack action, or with Commander's Strike we can forego one of those attacks to let one of our sons make an attack of their own. We have to use our bonus action and our son has to use his reaction, but he can add one of our superiority dice to the damage if he hits. For our greater favorite enemy, we will go with Undead. We get advantage to track and remember information about them, +4 to our damage against them, and advantage on any saves they force us to make. Our bonus damage against our other favorite enemy, humanoids, also goes up to +4. Now technically, Undead isn't an option for greater favorite enemy, just for the regular favorite enemy, but I don't think it's that big of a stretch. If your DM isn't cool with it, I would say just use the regular, non-revised version of favorite enemy. You lose out on the damage bonus, but humans and Undead are most of what D fights, so we really do want both. As a roving deft explorer, our walking speed increases by 5 feet, and we get a swimming speed and a climbing speed to match. Vampires like to live in tunnels where there's no sunlight, so we need to get in there and out of there somehow. We get a 5th superiority die at 7th level, and our supernatural defenses make us harder to kill. While we have a creature designated as our Slayer's Prey, we can add a d6 to any saves that creature forces us to make, or to any checks we make to get out of being grappled by them. We can dash with our bonus action at 8th level, and we'll use our ASI here to round up our dexterity and wisdom to 14 apiece. 9th level spellless rangers get natural anti-venom, giving us resistance to poison damage and advantage on saves against being poisoned, and letting our poultices cure a poison in addition to restoring HP. We also get one last maneuver, like Commanding Presence, which lets us add a superiority die to an intimidation, performance, or persuasion check.
At 10th level, we're a tireless deft explorer, letting us use our action to get 1d8 plus our wisdom modifier, temporary HP, a number of times per day equal to our proficiency bonus. We also lose levels of exhaustion on short rests. Rangers can also hide in plain sight, giving creatures -10 to their checks to see us if we remain still. Doesn't do anything about their hearing though, so D might not get a whole lot of use out of it. Unlike our last Monster Slayer ability, Magic User's Nemesis. Once per rest, if a creature within 60 feet tries to cast a spell or teleport, we can use our reaction to force them to make a wisdom save. On a fail, the spell or teleport fizzles and is just straight up wasted. Our capstone is the 12th level of Ranger for one last ASI, which we'll use to bump our charisma to 18. Now that the build is complete, let's take a look and see what we have done. Well, first of all, we are a veritable encyclopedia of the supernatural. Thanks to our expertise in history, tactical assessment, advantage from favorite enemy, and hunter sense, We can ferret out the secrets of our foes and exterminate them. We're also pretty beefy thanks to our 3 save proficiencies, resistances from raging, and several sources of temporary HP, along with good hit dice and decent constitution. Unfortunately, decent is really the best way to describe most of our stats, since we've got +2s across the board except for a -1 intelligence and +4 charisma. So we can come up short on the physical end if we're fighting inhuman monsters. That's why it's a good thing we can either talk our way out of many situations with our high charisma and expert social skills, or bring our family in to fight alongside us. Really though, the tricky part of this sort of build is that the really memorable thing about the character is his personality. All the relentless chicanery, confident bravado, and depths hidden beneath reckless enthusiasm is role-playing, and that's not something I can build into a character. So if you're playing this build and you really want it to feel like Big D, just remember, D's nuts.
Father, a scary movie may have been a more appropriate first step.
His first impression of terror shall be in real life, not a movie film. We shall throw the boy into the dread inferno and see his fearful hide burn away in the conflagration!
We are not throwing my son into a fire.
Or I will find a way to make an analogy physical and then smack you with it.
Thank you for watching, friends. I hope you enjoyed the build. This video got a little bit delayed, so there's no poll, but Toga from My Hero Academia should be out in the near future. If you have any feedback or suggestions for characters you'd like to see me build, please leave them in the comments below, and they could show up in a future poll. Leave a like or subscribe if you want to see more. Thanks again for watching. I will see y'all later.